we're going to do the same thing. We're not going to let foreigners do X, Y, and Z. Then more protectionist tariffs came, restrictions came, and of course everybody else says, well, gosh, if America's going to do that, we're going to do it too. I mean, it really doesn't matter where it starts, but since fortunately or unfortunately America is the largest economy in the world, and nearly everybody tries to emulate us, or they watch us very closely. So if we do something, others feel they have a free reign or freer reign to do it too. It's spreading. Nobody's going to benefit from it. Politicians always say, if they say anything, it's a short-term thing, or we're just protecting you from evil foreigners, that sort of thing. It's always led to problems. And if protectionism really becomes even more rampant, social unrest will be the least of it. In the end, we'll have war around the world, and it'll be much worse.
With regards to the possibility of war, everybody's watching Israel and Iran to see how that shakes out. We don't know who will attack who first, but it just seems like a war is brewing over there. Aside from even that complicating factor in the oil market, or potential complicating factor, what about oil? I mean, are we entering a period here where we just have permanently high prices for oil going forward because of the fundamentals? Is that just where we are from now on, Jim?
Well, the International Energy Agency, and they're the people who would know better than most, going around explaining to governments, look, we have a serious energy problem facing us. Known reserves of oil are declining at a steady rate, and maybe 20, 25 years, there won't be any oil at any price. Not just high-priced oil or scarcity. They're talking about the world's running out of known supplies of oil. So the surprise is going to be how high the price of oil stays and how high it goes. Now, there could certainly be setbacks. If suddenly the UK, say, goes bankrupt, well, everything's going to collapse for a while. Oil will go to who knows how low, as will everything else. But unless something happens pretty quickly, the price of oil is going to stay high and going to go much, much higher over the next decade.
Let me ask you, since you brought up the UK, what about the pound and what's happening over there? It's been devalued. Is it going to continue to devalue? What do you see happening?
Well, I don't see a good, sound, fundamental outlook for the pound sterling. The UK, the North Sea is drying up. The city of London, which is the financial center, is not nearly as prosperous as it used to be. And the politicians are now trying to tax the city of London to drive it away. You talk about killing the goose that laid the golden egg. So I don't see much that's going to be terribly prosperous in the UK in the future. They've gone and built up huge, huge debt. So I worry about the UK economy. I do not have a position in the UK or the sterling in any way, long or short, but I would suspect the pound will continue to decline for years to come. That doesn't mean go out and short it today or anything. I'm just saying that over in several years, we're going to look back and say, oh my, look how far down the pound has come.
Fair enough, Jim. Let me ask you about the euro. Looking at the euro, obviously there's the Greek problem, but then you do have Italy, you do have Spain, Portugal, Ireland. So it's really, it can catch on pretty quick and get a lot worse. And then the argument on the U.S. side is we have 40 states in trouble. I understand that. But just looking at the EU for a minute, is that going to break apart? Do you think, if I'm asking you to guess here or speculate, is the euro going to stay together? Are countries going to go back to, is Greece going back to the drachma? Should the Germans go back to their currency and the French back to theirs? What do you see happening over there?
Well, I suspect the euro is going to survive this particular bout. I'm not sure how, but I suspect it will. I mean, I'm long the euro, by the way, partly because there are huge short positions in the euro right now. But I would suspect either they will paper over the problem, which will make people have a sigh of relief, such as happened in world stock markets in 2009, or Greece will default. And that would cause a big rally in the euro, because then people would say, hey, they mean it. They want to have a sound currency. Europeans, I mean. So either way, I would suspect somewhere a rally is going to come. From what level, I don't know. But longer term, I don't expect the euro to survive. More and more politicians are going to blame things on the euro. And unfortunately, Europe has in my view, expanded too much, too fast. They brought in too many players. 27 countries in Europe now. They're not all in the euro, but most of the countries don't bring much to the party except making some bureaucrats in Brussels happy. So, no, I don't expect the euro to survive a couple of decades more. And if the euro does start disintegrating, somebody's going to pull out of the EU. The EU is a fabulous concept. The euro, the world desperately needs the euro or something like it because the dollar is such a flawed currency. But unfortunately, I'm afraid there are too many people trying to attack the euro, Brussels, etc. And as things get tough, and they may well get tough, if that happens, people get angry, they withdraw from the currency, they withdraw from the common market, European Union. You see what's happening in Greece right now. You see the Icelandic government fell. I mean, Iceland's not a part of the euro, but the EU. But when they had troubles, brought down the government. Latvia brought down the government. Well, if you start having this kind of really, really bad problems, it's going to bring down governments. Demagogues are going to come in. They're going to blame it on the euro. They're going to blame it on Brussels. And I'm afraid things will not survive. Conceivably, we would have a much smaller European Union someday. I mean, if they had a euro or a EU of maybe 6, 8, 10 countries, it could be a wonderful entity, and that entity might then someday expand slowly, and organically. But unfortunately, the way they've done it, I'm afraid we're going to have many problems coming up.
There are so many problems globally right now, Jim, but if you had to just isolate it to Europe and the United States, is Europe in better shape overall, would you say?
Well, Europe has got 30 or 40 countries, so some are better shape, some are worse. The U.S. is the largest debtor nation in the history of the world. You still have nations in Europe which are creditor nations. So it depends on, I cannot answer that. Even in the U.S., some states are not in such bad shape. Others are financially bankrupt. So, no, I don't have an answer. It depends on part of Europe, which part of the U.S. Some parts of the U.S. that are in better shape than many parts of Europe. But likewise, there's some countries in Europe that are in better shape than many states of the U.S.
California, just as a state in the United States, is sort of a large economy if it was its own country. That's just sort of imploding right now. Massive debt problems, can't get its act together. Is that something you see when you look in as going to bring down or bring a crisis to the United States, almost certainly?
Well, of course. Whether it's California or who knows where, these guys continue to deny reality. I don't know. I guess they think the tooth fairy is going to save us all because not just in California, but in many